Preparing for a job interview can be daunting. Job interviews are a different type of interaction from anything else you would do in normal life, so naturally people are not particularly comfortable when doing them. But with a little bit of training and practice, you can get really good at them. Once you nail down your job interview game, then you'll be far more likely to get offered better jobs at a higher salary. However, the big problem is that anticipating and practicing questions can take time, which you may not always have. Nonetheless, preparation is key to success to ensure you come across as professional, friendly, and authentic during the interview. In this lesson, you'll be learning our top tips to what you should be doing before, during, and after an interview in order to give yourself the best possible chance of securing a job. Firstly, it's really important that during the interview you demonstrate that you're knowledgeable about the company. So make sure you do some research about the company you'll be interviewing at prior to being invited. Here's a checklist of points you'll want to think about prior to the interview. What do they do? In other words, what's their vision and mission? What are their values, and how do you fit into those values? What are their current projects or campaigns? Who is their target audience? Do they sell B2C products or B2B services? And finally, where are they based and how will you get to the interview? Researching the company will also give you an insight into the tone of the company. In other words, is it corporate or a young startup? For example, a startup may describe itself with words like innovative and visionary, whereas a large corporation may focus on taking leadership seriously and displaying a responsibility to improving lives. Understanding the tone of the company will help guide you in terms of the approach you may want to take during the interview. Secondly, if you can find out who will be interviewing you, then it's a good idea to do a bit of research about them. A quick look over their LinkedIn profile will do. This should potentially help reduce your nerves when you can put a friendly face behind the job interview. Now, this is the key part: anticipating and practicing those interview questions that are likely to come up. It's essential to prepare a template answer to common questions that you may be asked. The key to effectively preparing and answering your interview questions is to firstly analyze the job description and ensure you prepare your answers to reflect that. When answering job interview questions, we'd advise on using the CAR method, which will help you structure your answers with a clear example. CAR stands for, firstly, context. This is about setting the scene by highlighting the situation where your work experience example took place. You may also want to quickly demonstrate that you've understood the question you're being asked at this point too. Secondly, action. This is the key part to your answer, where you'll be highlighting the relevant action you took that directly answers the question. And finally, result. This is about wrapping up your example by telling them the impact that your action achieved. Try to give a quantitative answer here, outlining some specific numbers or percentages. We've provided loads of great examples of how to use the CAR method for common interview questions in exercise file 27. When forming your answer to each question, we'd suggest using a bullet point approach rather than a word-for-word script. This will not only make it easier for you to remember the focus of each of your answers, but it will also mean that your answers will come across as far more organic during the interview. Once you've nailed the bullet point focus of each answer, it's then time to start practicing. Practicing gets a bad reputation because people feel like, oh, well, if I practice too much, it's not going to sound authentic. We'd disagree. Practicing just means you'll go from stumbling a lot to sounding really polished and confident. So, as well as speaking out loud to yourself, you may also want to consider asking a friend to do a mock interview with you. An interview is like a performance. You're starring as yourself, so naturally you should be coming across as authentic. But you're also preparing, so that you're not just being yourself, you're being the best version of yourself. As mentioned, you'll find examples to common interview questions and answers in exercise file 27 that you can use as a strong template to begin shaping your own answers. Although this is a great place to start, you should be looking to expand and tweak this with your own more relevant questions and answers throughout your career. We suggest you write down a few bullet points to each question using the CAR method. You can then save this document as your go to template, which you can quickly fire up every time you need to practice for an interview. Finally, it's also advisable that you splash out a good chunk of money on investing in a good quality, comfortable, and smart outfit for your job interviews. This will really help boost your confidence and help you create a positive first impression for any formal meeting. Also, knowing you have a killer outfit ready to go in your wardrobe eliminates any anxieties you might have prior to the job interview in terms of what to wear. So, it's worth your while investing a bit of time and money to doing this. Of course, whatever outfit you choose is quite subjective and specific to you. Generally, you want to pick something that looks smart, feels comfortable, and matches the tone of the company. Within the ebook, in Chapter 16, we've outlined some useful tips on how you can go about buying a great outfit if you're on a budget, which we'd recommend checking out. The end goal here is that you'll have an outfit that is designer quality and perfectly fitted, which will help you look great and feel great at any formal occasion, including job interviews and client meetings. Your appearance makes the first statement, so make sure yours says, "Hire me immediately." Now let's look at what you need to think about during the interview. The key to making a good impression is to come across as professional as possible. Try to arrive 10 minutes early, and obviously come dressed in your killer outfit. Also, a firm handshake with eye contact and a smile at the beginning really helps too. Secondly, try your best to communicate effectively during the interview. Here are some tips on how to do that. Firstly, during the interview, think of yourself as a consultant rather than a job candidate. A consultant is someone who goes into a meeting knowing the value of the services that they can offer. This way of thinking is going to help you to naturally shift your body language so that it is more confident and relaxed. Try also mimicking the body language of the interviewer. This helps both of you to stay engaged while you're there. Also, be mindful of your posture and eye contact too. It is also important to stay present during the interview. It's all too easy for your mind to wander during the interview, worrying about what the other person is thinking of you, but you have to try to take your attention back and listen intently to what the interviewer is saying, because the more that you can listen, the better the quality of your answers will be. Use the CAR method during the interview questions as outlined earlier, while at the same time use active verbs like I persuaded or I implemented when delivering your examples. If you're not sure of an answer to a question, it's fine to pause or take a sip of water to make sure you understand what's being asked. And finally, try to relax and engage in the conversation. Remember that a lot of interviewers probably dread conducting the interview just as much as you. So, if you make it friendly, authentic, and maybe even a tiny bit fun, you'll likely be memorable in a good way. Finally, ask good questions at the end of the interview. This will show them you're interested and enthusiastic. We've included a few good examples for you in exercise file 27. It's also a good idea to leave your CV behind. The purpose of this is to simply help the interviewer remember you. You don't need to bring an entire folder of your portfolio. Something small like your CV will do. After the interview, it's a good idea to follow up with a quick thank you email. This might sound obvious, but you'd be surprised how few people follow up on emails, phone calls, meetings, and introductions they've had. Following up can open doors where they would have otherwise remained closed, and the same goes for job interviews. Make sure you send the interviewer a thank you note. This is a non-negotiable. If it's a tight race between you and someone else, it could come down to who sent the thank you note. Your thank you note should go out the minute you have access to a computer, as in within hours of that meeting. Email is perfect. It's fast, and it's the way most business people communicate. It's crucial that you customize your email for every person you meet with. Don't send the same message to everyone. Customization shows polish and thoughtfulness. If you don't hear anything back just before the date that they said, Then you can send another quick email just to check in with them and say that you would be happy to answer any follow up questions they may have. If you find out that you haven't been offered the job, which is certainly likely to happen from time to time, don't just cut off all ties there and then. This is a common mistake a lot of people make. You never know when that job might open up again, or if a different opportunity might pop up at the same company later on. So, for all these reasons, absolutely follow up even if you're not getting the job. Send a message that lets them know that you'd love to revisit the conversation in case another opportunity opens up or things don't go as planned. And then add them as a connection on LinkedIn. Show grace, invite connection, and keep those doors open for future opportunities.